Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you listen to the Brutal Truth Buckeye Podcast featuring Angry Scott, Trey Baby Driver, and the one we all know and love. He's casual. He's a fan. It's casual fan Kris.
What's happening? Oh no!
Thanks for letting me join again, guys.
Absolutely. I see that you're wearing, if everybody who listens to the podcast, Trey's a big Georgia fan. He's wearing that. He lost a bet to a Mizzou fan, which is why he's wearing that yellow right now.
Woo! Sensitive subject. We escaped that one. Maybe we'll dive into that. We'll touch on that a little bit, but yeah.
Before we forget, please remember to like and subscribe, and we like your comments. If you'd like to comment, and we like to have a little mailbag segment where I respond to the viewers. So please like, subscribe, and please comment.
That'd be great.
We'll get right into the game here. Kris, you want to give us your thoughts on it here first?
All right.
Yeah, the only thought really is 5 letters, M-I-Y-A-N. Man's a machine. So big game for him. Everything else, it seems like everybody was just in support of him, man. So just, again, it's really cool to see him doing his thing all year. And, again, just seeing his journey. But, God, man, impressive. Averaging 9 yards a carry on 21 carries, 70-yard run or 70-yard long. So other than that, no, I didn't. There's not much else to comment on other than it seems like Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't wear his Apple Watch and his Louis Vuitton cleats this game either.
I wore him at home. That's what I did. I wore him at home. Do you think? Let me ask you this: do you think Miyan Williams best running back in Ohio State?
Right now, I mean, if Travion Henderson were a little healthier, would he be getting these this many carries? Doubtful, but he's definitely taking advantage of the opportunity in the spotlight. And again, I'm just glad we're fortunate to have the depth that we do, and just glad he's taking advantage of all these extra carries. So it's really going to help us deep in the season, and especially if and when we go bowling.
Yeah, I mean, I will say. Go ahead there, Kris.
No, I was just going to say, how about you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this is fucking Rutgers, man. So how excited can I get about Rutgers? It's not like we're, from the tough SEC playing the world beaters, of fucking Mizzou, and you know how tough Mizzou is. And, Trey, you being the big SEC guy, your boy, Kirby Smart's always going, it's always so difficult in the SEC. It's fucking Mizzou. Don't give me that bullshit. It's Mizzou. Okay, so like if we would went out there and look like garbage against Rutgers, then and even early on, man, we had the drop punt by Emeka Egbuka. I'd say offensively we look great. I think CJ he wasn't going to win the Heisman tonight, and I say that he had a quote unquote off night. He was 13 for 22 for 154 yards, but I think there's also a reason where Miyan Williams he scored 5 touchdowns, 5 rushing TDs. So he tied an Ohio State record that hadn't been tied since I want to say 1984. And I forget who the running back was in 1984. You have to remind me. They talked about it during there. I think it was 1984, and there's another one in 1974, but it was not Archie from 74. So right now, I think Miyan Williams is your best running back. They held out. Dude, I am drawing a blank, man. I can't believe help me out, Travion Henderson, right? They held him out, but I think right now Miyan's definitely the best running back on the squad. Wide receivers, I think actually like we had a pretty quiet night for the wide receivers. It's just, and I say quiet, and we still scored 49 touchdowns, but if when 35 of those points were from rushing TDs, it's just I will say this offensively. I think Ohio State's looking great. When I come out there with Rutgers and Greg Schiano, he kind of threw the kitchen sink at him. I think he used 4 different QBs to start the game. It was like they had an onside kick. They did a bunch of other things. I will still say defensively, I think our best squad is the linebackers. Defensive ends, I don't see a Chase Young out there. Kris, do you see a Chase Young out there defensive end wise right now in Ohio State?
No, dude, it seems very, I don't want to say casual, but just kind of status quo. But if you kind of backtrack or take a step back, we've had a lot of superhumans over the last, 10 years, right? The Bosa Bros, Chase Young. Who else? So, we were real lucky.
Oh, I mean, Jack Sawyer is supposed to be that guy, and JT. I can't think of. Yes, there it is. That's the one. So they're supposed to be those guys. I think they're both 5-star guys. They're not there yet. I think Tommy Eichenberg is looking great. I think he's probably the best on the defense. I'll tell you who's looking like garbage is the secondary, man. And Denzel Burke, I am concerned.
Yes.
And once again, it's Rutgers. So that's the other thing. Like if you can look lackluster in a 49-10 win, that's what we look like at times. I think you're sleepwalking a little bit through that game, but it's also Denzel Burke, man. I'm concerned. What's it going to be like? This might be fine for Rutgers, or if we played some world beaters like Mizzou or somebody, but it's, what's it going to be like against Penn State? What's it going to be like with Michigan? What's it going to be like when you play a better team? So for everybody that says, oh, hey, what are you talking about? 1 by 39. That's not a problem. I'm like, well, I'll go back to it's Rutgers. Okay. And it was Toledo a couple weeks ago, and it was Arkansas State a couple weeks ago. So if you want to go and make the playoffs, you got to go and play to that Buckeye standard. So yeah, from a secondary standpoint, I am concerned. I will say once again that Greg Schiano, former Ohio State defensive coordinator, he did a lot to try to go and mix things up. Also late in the game, I'll give you both. I'll give you both the Buckeye view of this and then the non-Buckeye view. For anybody that hasn't seen, there was a little mix-up between Ryan Day and Greg Schiano, and it was regarding a fake punt. Well, I don't think Ryan Day called the fake punt. And, they're still trying to go, and, they were going to, on all 4 downs there. The Rutgers was, because hey, they're trying to go and win the game, or at least try to do something when you're down 39 points. But it's just kind of opened up, and the punter took it. And then it was a way late hit. It was way late. So, I guess I get it from both sides. I kind of thought, well, hey, maybe Ryan Day initially, maybe he was just trying to put something on tape. Like, hey, we could do this. If the Red Sea parts, I'm going to go ahead and take it. But I think it was really, I don't think he called it. And then it was way late. Now I can understand Schiano coming over and saying, hey, what are you doing with this up 39 points? But I don't think he called it. The other thing of it is, Schiano, man, they did a bunch of trick plays and onside kicks and other stuff like that. So
you get a taste of your own medicine, dude.
That's right, man. Really, at the end of the day, if you want to stop us, if you don't want it to happen, then stop us. Or, and if you're going to go do this, this is, this is not, Little League out there. This is not, this is, the big boys, man. I know it's still college and it's not the pros, but still, then go ahead and stop it. If you're going to go on all 4 downs, if you're not going to punt, if you're going to do all those other trick plays, then hey, these are the things that happen. So, but I also understand you're like, really, you're up 39. So I guess do I completely blame the kid laying them out? No, because that's the kind of stuff that happens when you have a fake punt when you're up 39 in the 4th.
Dude, the only thing I'd push back on is, okay, if you play between the lines, right? And right, where he made contact with Mirko was way out of bounds. So that's only the major complaint I'd have. So if the punter decided to tiptoe up the sideline, light him up, right? The rules of the game state you can light him up between the lines. But once he's out of bounds and once the play's dead, what are you doing? You're begging for the extracurricular stuff then.
Yeah. Now, you have the same concerns I do with the secondary?
Yeah, secondary's getting a lot worrisome. I really thought the linebackers would have been a concern. So at the beginning of the year, I really thought the linebackers were going to be my number one worry. Defensive line, I kind of always had that sneaky suspicion that, okay, we've got 5 stars, we got talented guys, but again, just getting adjusted to not having a man-child superhero like Chase Young, Joey, and Nick Bosa over the previous year. So, yeah, secondary, we got some work to do still. They got some maturing to do. Luckily, we still got some time ahead of us. But
yeah, offensively, I don't really have any concerns. I want Trevion to come back and be completely healthy. Jackson Smith-Jigma, I want him to be completely healthy, but we haven't, missed a step without him. Defensively, number one concern, secondary. Number 2 concern is the D-line, and the linebackers been pretty damn good. So, Trey, did you see any of the game or any thoughts on, the fake punt or what you saw of the game?
Yeah, I didn't watch the game, but looking at the stats, I watched the highlights. I'm gonna go ahead and make, I don't know if it's a bold statement. To me, Georgia fan, I mean, everybody saw it, Missouri. You should blow it. I mean, we had a 30-point spread. We're down 16-6 at halftime. To me, we're not a top 5 team. We show a lot of gaping holes. I mean, I was sitting there for a minute at halftime with my buddy, even in the fourth quarter. I'm like, this might be an Outback team. This might be a 10-2 team here. I think we have some humble.
And you're talking about the Bulldogs, though, right?
Yeah, Bulldogs, real quick. But for you guys, what I liked about it's impressive is I think you are the scariest team currently. I think you should have moved ahead of us in the polls. You should be 2 or 1. Your defense is way better. You're blowing out teams. I think you're covering the spread, which is always good. And the fact that I think Shiano and Rutgers tried to stop your pass, you're not going to beat us. And then you went over, all right, buddy, you're going to do that. We're going to run it down your throat with 5 touchdowns and 189 yards. You're getting 7 yards to carry. So that shows a strong team that we can beat you with the run and not with the pass, and your defense is getting better. And I mean, looking at your schedule, I think you guys roll. Penn State might put up a fight. Not sure what that is. And then, your beloved team from the North. But I think and then when you get loaded when you get all your wide receivers back, you're scary with the wideouts. But that's my thought as the non-biased Ohio State fan.
Well, I'll say this just to cover a little bit there for Georgia, man. I still think Georgia's probably the best team in the country. So when you say, oh, you're not a top 5 team in the country, then who is? Okay. I mean, honestly, man.
That's 2 straight weeks. Kent State and Missouri. Like we got.
Hey, my dad went to Kent State. Quick story. My dad went to Kent State, and he was there when Nick Saban was there. My dad was a high school basketball coach, and they were in the same coaching class together at the same time.
That's awesome. Like, I can get Kirby Smart said, hey, Kent State's a great team. All right, well, what'd they do the next week? They beat Ohio State in overtime. And then you have Missouri that pretty much gave away that Auburn win, who their coach is going to get fired any day. I mean, I'm sure they're looking at the contract. We got them rolling into town. I don't know. I'm just pissed off as a Georgia fan. Maybe we're not. We are, but
when you had that close win against Kent State, though, I didn't hear, oh, it's the SEC, brother, and all the other bullshit. You're like, well, whatever. We just went ahead and we didn't take them serious enough. I mean, it's tough to get 18 to 22-year-olds, or with Stetson Bennett. What is he, 27 or 29 years old right now in his 8th year eligibility? But for a lot of these other guys, it's tough to get them up week in, week out. That being said, look, man, Alabama has looked human at times. I don't think this is the Alabama team you've seen in the past. I still think Georgia's the best. Now, when you saw them play Oregon, you said, well, that's a pretty damn good team. Who's going to beat them? Well, if they don't start for Kent State, I say, okay, but now, hey, man, this is SEC play, brother, but it's still Missouri, So
gotta beat them.
That's I understand why that's concerning, but so am I picking apart the Buckeyes 49-10 win? I'm only picking it apart in the sense of when Ohio State plays the Georgias of the world, when they play the Alabamas of the world, and yes, even Michigan, how's the D line going to hold up? I like the D coordinator. I think he's doing great, but how's the D line going to hold up? I mean, because I'm going to look back at who they played. Notre Dame, they're trash. Arkansas State, Toledo put up 21 on us. Wisconsin, which fired the coach. We'll talk about that in a second. 21. Now, some of those are garbage points, but when are we going to really be tested? You got Michigan State coming up, and we're just going to tear apart their secondary, or we should. Okay. Then we got a bye, and then you got Iowa. I mean, I don't even think they, their offensive challenges, to say the least. Okay, so you got Penn State, and then you got Michigan, and then yes, anything can happen, but Northwestern, come on, man, Indiana, okay, and then your trap game is Maryland. So. The challenge is, unless we, stub our toe and trip over our, what's on the way, the challenges are going to be, Penn State, October 29th, my anniversary. I love you, sweetie. And against Michigan here in late November. Penn State's on the road. That'll probably be a whiteout, and Michigan's at home. And then whoever we play, sacrificial lamb from the Big Ten West, because that is complete garbage. I think the Big Ten is down, but I mean, that is complete garbage. I even say this. I did watch some of the NC State Clemson game. man, I don't think Clemson is what they were a couple years ago. Yes, they're still undefeated, but do you really think they're kind of what they were? Is there going to be somebody outside of these, perennial, powerhouses? What are your thoughts on that, Kris?
Honestly, I don't watch much else outside of the Big Ten and my boys, but it's going to have to be somebody to step up.
Are you? Let me ask you. When I'm looking at just the top 10, I'll go over the top 10. Alabama's number 1, Georgia's 2, Ohio State's number 3, Michigan at 4, number 5, Clemson, number 6, USC. Maybe that's, they had a close game against Oregon State, Oklahoma State. I'm not too worried about them. Tennessee. Are you worried, Trey, about Tennessee, Georgia? And then I've got Ole Miss, number 9, and Penn State at 10.
That was what I was going to bring up. Everybody who we talked to, like feeling our pulse, is as they win, they've got LSU, which lucky for them, this 12:00 game. If they win that, and if they hang around with Alabama, they've got them in Knoxville. That place is going to be rocking. And God forbid if they beat Bama, and let's say Bryce Young's still out, they got an AC sprain. That'll be game day, rocking and rolling for that game. That could be, if they somehow beat us, man, that's a 2-game thing. We probably lose the East. This is us. So for Georgia, this is what we got. Sorry to go on a rant. We've got Florida, which has always been our Achilles heel. We should be. We got Tennessee. We got Kentucky, which gave that game away with Ole Miss, even though Ole Miss is right in here. They should have won that game. So Kentucky's a good team. You got to go there. You got to go to Mississippi State, who smoked our boy Jimbo, who I'm loving it.
I'm loving it.
And we've got, Kentucky on the road. So we've got like a little gauntlet there. That's why I'm like, if that team shows up who played against Missouri, you're losing like 2 of those, or maybe more.
So let me ask you real quick. So is there a chance you guys are sleepwalking? Against a Missouri squad that this is probably their biggest game. This is their bowl game, their Super Bowl.
Everybody's saying that it was 30-point spread. You're down by 10. I mean, we had to run the ball and lean on them. We had more dudes, but you can't do that in these big games. And we're turning the ball over way too much. You're looking back on it, 5 turnovers in 2 games. I mean, as you know, it's old school football. I can't turn it over. So I'm not excited as a Georgia fan. I'm kind of going back to, hey, we got a natty last year, but I'm like, we're concerned. We'll say that.
Well, let me ask you this, Trey. Did you think during that game that you could have used a Viva tequila seltzer?
I could. That was
whether it was a huckleberry while playing around in golf or an elderberry when you're shitting your pants watching the Georgia-Missouri game.
Diapers.
Then the Viva tequila seltzer is exactly what you're looking for. Am I right?
Exactly. Big old 6-pack would have been nice and tasty during that to make me drink my sorrows away.
Oh, grapefruit.
And remind everyone, Trey, where it is you can pick up that Viva tequila seltzer.
You get that online, Viva tequila seltzer here online. Actually, you can use for a 10% discount is 10% off. Hustle at Viva Seltzer, Viva Tequila Seltzer.com. Also,
you sure you haven't had a couple of those?
Yeah, I did. I had one earlier. That was my post-game workout.
I hear you. I mean, my concern is going back to Ohio State here. My concern is you played mostly garbage. We all know now Notre Dame's garbage. Arkansas State, Toledo, we talking about Wisconsin, man, is, they fired their coach. My thoughts on that is maybe he took them as far as he could. I mean, I think still had some 10-win seasons. I want to say he was there for Paul Chryst was for I want to say he was still there for was it 7 years? I think he came from Pitt because Pitt is always like that next job, like, on a smaller scale, Pitt is, a springboard to a bigger job. Just like on a larger scale, Oregon's like, we need to get someone from the SEC, and then they have a little bit of success and they go back down to the SEC. So were you surprised at all, Kris? I know at one point in time you lived in Wisconsin, and you even lived in Milwaukee, which I believe is Algonquin for the good land.
The gooder.
Do you were you surprised that they fired him?
A little bit. I texted a couple of my buddies that still live up there, and then I was reminded that old Brett Bielema, who crapped on the doorstep on his way out of Wisconsin, he's the one that beat him. So I guess that was the last straw. Like, you can get beat up pretty bad by Ohio State. You can lose to some other competitive light people, but when When old Brett Bielema, former Woo Pig Suey, all that good stuff. That's the last guy you probably want to lose to. So, in the words of, what is it? Pardon my take. Happy trails.
Hey, did you guys know what Brett Bielema's nickname was when he was at Arkansas? Because he was having some good games there. He was called for a minute there. He was called the new Nick Saban.
New Nick Saban. Dude, didn't he go like 2 years without winning an SEC game or something like that?
He did, but he I don't know if he was competitive, but they're like Brett Bielema, the new Nick Saban here in Arkansas.
I'll get the fuck out of here. That is garbage. I mean, the other thing I'll say is I just think with Chryst, they're just going downhill, man. And I was kind of surprised, man. Here we are in October. How many firings have there been?
That
you know,
Colorado
the
coach got it too yesterday, didn't he? Colorado guy, which they're garbage.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
I mean, I think here's the problem, right? They beat who's Illinois State. Wisconsin does in the first game, 38-0. Okay, you lose to Washington State, not a very good team. Okay, you beat New Mexico State, you pound them, but then you lose big to Ohio State, you lose big to Illinois. So things were heading to the run direction. And they talked about Jim Leonard was defensive coordinator. Everybody talks about how great he's supposed to be. You know, apparently the Packers want to offer him a position. So I wonder if they also look like, hey, look, he's not the future. Why don't we see if Jim Leonard, could be an interim for the rest of the year, and then maybe he can be the guy. But I've never seen Wisconsin fire somebody. Of course, it was Bear Alvarez for a super long time, right? And then you had Bulimia. I say Bulimia, but Bielema. Anyways, when I see him coach, I want to throw up. Anyways, and then who replaced him after that? It was like a guy from Oregon State. It was Gary Anderson or something. Who was the guy? And now it's Paul Chryst. So I haven't seen. I don't know if this way college football is now at a program like Wisconsin to go and fire a man in early October. So that to me is surprising.
Also surprising, $11 million buyout.
I thought it was more. Wasn't it like 16? Did I see that?
Yeah, see, if I sign a contract and they're like, "Oh, we're going to go do," why would you negotiate something less? Pay that man his money.
You
got this you got the Big Ten contract or the Big Ten network money coming through. So I mean, hey man, that's what the contract says. Give it to me all.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I was talking to my mom, and she thinks it's crazy. It's funny I bring up my mom. Do you think these coaching contracts? Just for us looking at this money, dude, go to a big time program, go 6-6 for 3 years, and get a $10 or $15 million buyout, and go play golf, go hang out with family, less stress, do some analyst work. I mean, these buyouts are crazy. Oh yeah, hey, pop quiz. What is Jimbo Fisher's buyout? They're looking at that. If you can guess, Scott. We were looking at it. I was texting with Sean and
I want to say it was okay. So he have a 10-year, $100 million contract.
He's in year 6.
Is he in year 6? No, I think he's in year 4 or something. Is he?
Right.
You have to find that out. I thought he was in like year 4 or 5.
Yeah, but anyway, if you had to guess before I'm looking that up, what would you say?
His buyout, but let me understand this about a buyout. A buyout isn't if you get fired. A buyout is if you go somewhere else, right?
Yeah, just what they were talking about. I think this is from like Paul Feinbaum. He's looking at that.
I don't know, man. I'll say 40 million. I don't know.
So 2018 to present. So 5th year. This is the wiki.
Yeah, so we'll go 52. Right. Mm-hmm. We'll go 52.
According to Paul Feinbaum, who's talking about this on his show, if he's reputable, 86 million currently. Ooh. So I don't think he's going anywhere. And dude, they are 3-2. They got Bama, Mississippi State. You're looking at 8-4. Hey, here's the other thing that Paul Feinbaum. Hey, what's the difference? What's the difference between Jimbo Fisher and Gus Malzahn?
Gus played in. Well, no. I guess they did play. They played each other in the national championship, didn't they? I was going to say because wasn't it Florida State beat Gus Malzahn and Auburn in the national championship? I don't know. I know I ruined your joke, but to go ahead and tell us anyways.
The joke is difference between Gus Malzahn and Jimbo Fisher is Jameis Winston. That's it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. He's not living up to the billing, and everybody wants to go when they're not a good enough of a coach. They need to make all the excuses about, well, it's the SEC and also the bullshit. I understand all that. And understand this for a second. Yes, most years the SEC is tougher than the Big Ten. Okay, I don't mind saying that because it's true. Not all years, but most years. That can't be your excuse for everything. That can't be your excuse for why you don't perform when you've won a national title. Okay, at Florida State, and then you come to Texas A&M, and they're ready to pay you and yes, the players anything it takes.
Yeah,
and you're losing to App State.
Yeah, getting smoked.
Go Mountaineers.
Yeah,
and you're losing. Didn't they lose? Was it Mississippi State that lost to this last week? So it's
smoked them 42-24. Wasn't even close. A jump touchdown. 42 points. You got supposedly a great defense. All those 5 stars.
Well, a couple years from now, hey, they're going to be great and everything. That's what they're saying, right? But I mean, you do have those other guys that are young, but they had another guy. I was watching College Football Live this last week, and he committed to Texas A&M, on College Football Live. So, I mean, they're going to keep on bringing them in, and maybe eventually they do something. But right now, they didn't pay Jimbo all that money to lose to Mississippi State and App State. So it takes a little bit of the. Doesn't Texas A&M play Alabama this upcoming week?
Oh, yes, like 24-point spread. And Saban circled that one with all the shit talking in the offseason. That was a night game, man. That might get ugly, telling you.
And what I think is funny about that is College Game Day instead is going to Kansas versus TCU, right?
Lance Loophole, hot dude. Everybody's after him. Nebraska and Wisconsin, that'd be get the checkbook out. That dude can win, man. Hey, 5-0.
Yeah. I mean, now, real quick, Trey, I mean, so your thoughts are you're concerned about where Georgia is, but I mean, I don't know as though, man, I see any dominant team right now. I mean, if there's a dominant team, I think it's Georgia as much as anybody. I mean, it's even Ohio State, we've got concerns in our secondary. Is right now we have to outscore anybody. I mean, who do you see? Is there somebody outlier of that top 5 that is, that you think can get in there, something like a Tennessee or something like a USC? And what are your thoughts on that too, Chris? But you go first, Trey.
Yeah, to me, I'll go back actually. Clemson, DJU is playing better, and that was supposedly NC State's better team, so that's good. And looking at their schedule, they got the easier. I mean, they could always slip up, but if they can get their D line, like Breezy was out with a non-medical injury or whatever that was, I just think they could come out. I know it's still Clemson, but their running back's getting better. Shipley, DJU's running around. I just hear from Clemson fans, they weren't sold on him. He's looking better. Not saying they won't get waxed in the playoffs, but I mean, they're a team. USC, Caleb Williams has struggled recently, but their defense is played a little better. I'm not. So I got to see more from Georgia. I was we're hitting the concern button. I was listening to tons of podcasts breaking down. That was just bad. And I mean, you got Auburn's winnable. They roll around with Auburn, 30-point spread for all you degenerate gamblers. Take Auburn in the points. Vanderbilt, much needed bye week. And you got the gauntlet. I mean, I think we lose 1 or 2 of those, to be honest, down the stretch. And you get one mulligan. And after that performance, I wouldn't even want to. I mean, Bama would boat races, smoke us, whatever you would say, by 2 or 3 scores. Anyway, I'm not sold.
I guess your concern is just also going to be that it's happening back-to-back weeks.
Exactly.
Against inferior opponents. So, what are your thoughts, Chris?
Yep.
I'd like to see a little bit more of the Southern Cal right there in the. They're a popular and sexy name with Lincoln Riley and Caleb coming back, bringing some new blood into the program, but. I'm a believer, or I'll believe it when I see it. How about that? Tennessee, I think they've just got too much of a tough schedule ahead with the rest of the SEC. So as much as for all the volunteer fans looking for the glory days, maybe not yet.
They're probably
looking like it's 1998.
Hashtag 98.
That's right.
I would love to see, some humiliating defeats for Tennessee. Trey, do you think Georgia can help give one of those humiliating defeats?
I mean, we got the good thing is we do have them in Athens, so that'll be great. I just hope we can get it together. And we're a little banged up. Our best D lineman has a sprained MCL on a really cheap shot, so he's out. Defense did kind of carry us last week a little bit, but it's like Stetson bit. If we can't get the O-line, as you know, and he's short and bad at balls, I'm still a Stetson man for now, but shortly, pull him, Kirby.
Yeah,
it is.
Well,
He's
gentlemen,
been
we'll
with the
go ahead.
program for 8 years. You got to give him a chance.
He is. I mean, he won one last year, so I mean, there's a statue somewhere they're building, but
It's
Oh,
the
yeah.
shortest statue you've ever seen. But anyways, it'll be as tall as Nick Saban's, right? I digress.
Hey,
Well,
I
gentlemen,
got a stat for you on the Heisman Trophy candidates. Not saying anyway. Who's got the most passing yards currently between C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, and Stetson Bennett? Who has the most passing yards?
I'm gonna say C.J. Stroud, but you tell me.
What is Stetson Bennett?
Oh,
Passing yards. Well, he only has 5 touchdowns. That's not. Yeah, he's not in the race anymore. I will say this: if he could just get it going, if they get it to him, that the kid's good. Give Brock Bowers more targets. He needs to get 10 or 15 targets. That guy's a problem. 19, telling you.
maybe they'll listen to you.
He is, man. Got to throw it to him.
Hey, Scott, one question for you, buddy.
Yeah.
At what point in the season? So we've had, it's been pretty smooth so far. Haven't really had to need Jackson Smith and Jigba, but at what point do you start getting a little nervous for the man's hamstring?
You know what though, man? Here's the thing. Like I don't need him until Penn State. And it's one of those, with the way the other wide receivers are playing right now, I don't need him. I shouldn't need him against Michigan State. And I mean, for all I know, when we play against Iowa, the only thing I put him in Iowa is just so he has a game before Penn State, because otherwise, then who knows? Then he's probably going to go and get like a cramp or something if he hasn't played in that much time. But it's Iowa. I mean, Iowa will probably look phenomenal on offense coming out against us. I really don't need him or Travion until Penn State. The only thing is you just don't want it then is it just that you haven't played at all. That's my concern. But he'd be in a hamstring, and a hamstring could come back. Wait until he's ready, because look, man, you really need all your studs. And then if we got some other secondary that either guys that need to mature into that role, or Denzelberg can get his head out of his ass, then, I need those guys to come along. But I'm just hoping there's some recruit that we have that I just don't know about that, is going to come in and start play better in our secondary. But wide receiver wise, man, like, we're not missing them yet. And I still want them and I still need them, but I really need them for Penn State, Michigan, and then the playoffs. Am I wrong on that? Are you feeling any different?
No. I will get a little nervous come Iowa. Main reason it's getting to be Midwest fall season, right? So the colder it gets, the more I'd start itching, right? Because again, you want them to be ready, but in that cold weather, it's going to take a little bit longer to get warmed up, and who knows? But again, if we don't see him at least jogging on the field come Iowa, then I'm going to get itchy.
Well, at some point in time, get some rest, but you also need to get some reps. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It can't just all be practice reps, So, but anyways, boys, that has been another episode of the Brutal Truth Buckeye Podcast. Please like and subscribe. And by all means, please give us your comments, because if you go ahead and make some comments in there, then we will apply a little thing we call the mailbag segment. So I'm Angry Scott, Casual Fan Kris, and Baby Driver. We'll see you next week.
See you, boys.
OH.